Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the workshop. It's a pleasure to have you here because we're making a Viking SEAX, and today's episode has indeed been sponsored by Vikings War of Clans. So thank you, Vikings War of Clans. What is it? Well, it is a mobile-based RPG strategy game that is obviously themed around Vikings, which means that you get to do all sorts of cool stuff, like be a part of their legendary in-game battle events with over 1 million players, and since they've just come out with an update, you get to experience the new shamans and kingdoms that they've added. Vikings War of Clans has incredibly smooth 3D graphics, and the best part is you get to choose the playstyle you want, whether it is that you want to build an indestructible fort or gather your friends and take over the world. A Vikings War of Clans is going to have you covered. Try it now, install it, and get 200 golden protection shield for free while supporting my channel at the link below. Thank you, Vikings War of Clans, for sponsoring today's episode. Thank you guys for being here. We're going to be making ourselves a little bit of a SEAX. Now, I think I want to make this out of Damascus, and the great thing is as far as I understand, historically, the really high-end Viking pieces themselves would have some Damascus, and the types of pattern they were going for were generally a twist Damascus. And so it's very fortunate that I have this little scrap here, which I think is enough to make a short SEAX. You'll remember this. This is the piece from when we were experimenting with our twist Damascus with the explosion in the seams. We don't have the explosion in the seams, but we do have a beautiful pattern nonetheless. Here are some historical examples. As you can see, the blade lengths will start as short as 7 inches and go all the way up to 12 inches. But my understanding is that really there weren't many limitations to what the SEAX was. It was the Vikings' functional tool. It was also the Vikings' weapon of war. As you can see on Wikipedia, SEAX, and obviously there are plenty of other spellings, really just simply is an Old English word for knife. But of course, when we're referring to a SEAX right now, it's really kind of referring to this. It's a knife with a centered tang, and for a lot of the blade, a rather flat blade, with only a slight upwards curve towards the tip, but a very interesting, but a very interesting design on the back there. And I presume it was to give it some more meat for some sort of chopping tasks. That's what this does here, is it's placing a lot of the weight right in this area here, which is a natural kind of impact point, say, whether it is that you're happening to be processing some meat, or whether it is that you needed to take this thing to war, process some limbs. Cheese factor 1000. I want to use that material that we have and make something like this. We need a natural material for our handle. We've got plenty of wood, and we'll probably be shooting for one of these 10th century style blade shapes, probably about 7 inches long. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to cut off some of the shmoo here at the end, forge ourselves a point, draw it out some, isolate our tang. We're making a SEAX. So we got it thinned out a little more under the power hammer, and now what I'm going to do is we're going to start forging the bevels. Recently I've liked using the round side of my hammer to do this, a little more aggressive. So I'm going to work from the one side, flip it over, and then work in from the other side. Nice and aggressive, steeper angle with the material. A steeper angle being held than the final bevel aims to be. We've got it cut off and flipped around. It's now time to forge the tang. Getting close, but I'm still stuck in the underground. So cheesy. Righty ho, we got this puppy forged out. I have done a total of 3 normalizing cycles on it. This thing should be soft enough. The stress is equalized enough for us to start grinding. So into the grinding room we go. I'm gonna take the 9-inch angle grinder and use that for the heavy metal hogging. I am suiting up and getting all set to make some doys. I just invented a word. Doys. Dust and noise. Let's get to work. There we go. This is off the 36 grit, nicely roughed in. What an interesting blade shape the SEAX has. You know, what it makes me think when I look at it really is that this was the origin of what we see today when we look at a Bowie knife or a Bowie knife. Speaking of which, I have not forgotten. This integral guard Bowie knife is still in existence and in the process of getting closer to being finished. I've got obligations I gotta do, you know, that's how it goes. You gotta do things sometimes. But that's okay, that's part of the fun. Now, what we have to do right now is we have to harden this blade. Since we've already done a bunch of normalizing cycles and grinding it really wasn't too aggressive, we are going to go straight into the quench. You'll notice that we're heating it up tang first, so that right where it's thickest, where it's most difficult to heat up, it has the most heat before we flip it around and heat the tip right before our quench. There we go! I'm keeping the tang out of the oil. The result of that is the oil is flashing. Okay, it's been in there about 25 seconds. I'm gonna pull it out. We're gonna have a look at it and see if it warped. It hasn't. That was a super easy quench. It's nice and thick compared to the length. I'm gonna cool the rest of it. It cooled down after hardening, but we got the oxide on it. We can't see the temper colors, so we're gonna grind off the oxide. Ugly duckly, so... Oh, I'm shouting. Oh. It's now time for the temper. You normally see me use the oven. Well, sometimes you gotta change things up a little. I'm gonna change things up. My aim here is to do a differential temper. Instead of tempering the whole thing to a straw color and holding that temper, I wanna get a softer temper on the spine so that it then has that support from this tough spine for a little bit of a harder edge. I imagine that these things would have been used rather heavily. Would have done a decent bit of chopping. So the stronger we make this thing, the better. It's already thick. I'm gonna start by pumping heat into the tang area. And I'm gonna use that as my heat reserve. Then paint it up the spine of the blade. I'm gonna take my time with it, nice and slowly does it. Here you can see a beautiful representation of what temper colors look like. Starts off very light blue, dark blue, purple, dark straw, light straw. I'm gonna use this water bottle just to regulate the temperature. We're starting to get a straw here at the near side of the edge. And use that water bottle just to control it, because I think that that's gonna get a little too hot. I'm gonna come back in here to the spine, dump a little more heat into it. Again, watch for that near side. Look at those beautiful temper colors. Starting to approach what we want. I'm gonna put a little more heat up here. Okay, now what we're gonna do is we're gonna arrest the temper in some oil. There we go. Nice supple spine. Got a little hot here. About perfect here at the tip and down there. Now that it's tempered, it's time for some fresh 36 grit. Let's grind this puppy. We're making good progress. We've still got a pretty sturdy edge. We're gonna use this 120 to bring our flats higher up the grit. We're also gonna use it to begin forming an apple seed edge. That is an edge that is convex. That way, we keep it nicely supported. I forgot to touch mark it again. How do I forget to touch mark everything? Oh well, it's not touch marked, but we've done the grinding that we need to do. The rest is all handwork, I think. But first, let's have a look at the pattern, because I really cannot wait. I think this is pretty crazy. I've seen little snippets of it. I think this is awesome. Into the ferric chloride we go. Oh, what? No. Oh my goodness! No. It's so beautiful. Right, let's neutralize it. Is it bad to want to cry about your Damascus patterns? Check this out. And thank you to Vikings for sponsoring this video. Don't forget to get that game. Thank you guys for watching. We're gonna finish this tomorrow, and then it's back to the Bowie knife. Have a look at this pattern. It is insane!